Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor. Today, I want to talk to you about what things that are said versus things that are done. And this is a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson: "Your actions speak so loud, I can't hear what you say." And that quote pretty much sums up what we see in the crypto market with regard to the traditional investment bankers like Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan. And I wanted to address that today because, like you, I get sick and tired of watching these guys trot themselves out and say things that they know are not true over and over, and it always seems like it's a timed event. And so I wanted to go through this and speak a little bit to these guys' credibility versus what the study that you've done for yourself and what you've learned about crypto, and more specifically Ripple and XRP, and what you've read and that type of thing. And I want to just kind of dispel some of this. Well, what it is BS, complete BS. But I want to show you why it's BS and what they're up to. I've got several of these, and I want to go through them. If the computer slows down a little bit, it's because I've got so many tabs, but I'm going to shut these down as I go. This was from just the other day. I think this may have come out today. This was JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon. He's now back out and he's putting crypto down, and he's one of the, cryptocurrency is going nowhere, and but blockchain is a real thing. This is his thing that he trots out every once in a while. He called it a scam today. It says JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon returned to his more critical comments about Bitcoin, calling cryptocurrency a scam and saying he had no interest in it. Okay? Next, and I'm going to go through each one of these and try to. All right. Next up, Goldman Sachs sees more price pain ahead for Bitcoin. I would have no problem if Goldman Sachs was just coming out and saying they've been looking at the charts and they see more price issues ahead. That's okay. But that's not what they've done here. If you look further into the article, I'll read you the quote because it pretty much tells you exactly what they're trying to do. We expect further declines in the future, given our view that these cryptocurrencies do not fulfill any of the three traditional roles of a currency. And this is Goldman's chief investment officer of the private wealth management group. This is what they said in their report on Friday. Well, this part is what bothered me. It's not that they predicted Bitcoin prices would go down. When whether you see these as cryptocurrencies or digital assets or store of value, this right here I see is just an attempt on their part to poke holes in cryptocurrencies and digital assets overall. And this is what I don't like, because they know full well that this is a really big thing that's coming, and they are intentionally, in my opinion, trying to drive the prices down. And the reason I think that is I don't think it's a coincidence that both Jamie Dimon and Goldman Sachs, at the right when Bitcoin, over the last few days, Bitcoin has been at this price. I had read that this is a price resistance level at about 7,000. And I don't believe for a second that it's a coincidence that these guys decided now is the time to come in and kick Bitcoin. And unfortunately, as we've said 1,000 times, Bitcoin, all of these others, including the best XRP, is tied to Bitcoin. They tend to go up and down with Bitcoin. And so for now, when they kick Bitcoin, they're kicking XRP. And I believe that they kicked it intentionally because it's at that resistance level. I think they want to drive it down a little further. Not sure if they have investors or themselves that are trying to, I don't know what they're up to, but I just know they're up to something. Okay. But I want to, let's look at these guys' credibility for a minute, because these are supposed to be the upstanding citizens of the financial world. And I can't go over this stuff enough and go over the types of things these guys pull and what they're really up to behind the scenes. And so I'm going to go through it. And first, I'm going to start. This right here, what you're looking at, is a Goldman Sachs report on the Enron Corporation. Now, some of you are younger out there, but those of you that are close to my age, this name is it's one of the greatest frauds in the history of finance. Well, what I want you to see here, this was a Goldman Sachs report that they put out on Enron. And this happened, they put this out about 2 months before Enron literally closed its doors the way Lehman Brothers did in the financial crisis. And people were literally carrying boxes out. Okay, this is what they said. They said, we expect Enron shares to recover dramatically in the coming months. We spoke recently with most of the top management. Our confidence level is high. We spoke recently with top management, including the CEO, the CFO, and the head of wholesale services. We challenged top management on a wide range of investor concerns that have weighed heavily on the shares and believe that the majority of the market speculation is groundless, and that which has come has some truth to it to be exaggerated. Okay, this right here, for those of you that were around when this happened, this should blow your mind. This is supposed to be the leading financial company in the world, and they were telling you to buy Enron, and it wasn't just them. Merrill Lynch was telling people to buy at the same time. The biggest boys out there, they were all telling everybody to buy. Now, what they were doing behind the scenes, I'm not really sure of that. That'd be an interesting Google search right there. I searched a little bit and I couldn't dig it up, but I assure you, if you did enough digging, you might find that these guys were on the short end of this. I don't know that for a fact, but that's possible. But anyway, I show you this to make an obvious point, which is these guys, many times they don't know what they're talking about, but many other times they do know what they're talking about, and they're getting you to watch one hand while the other does something else. Let's move on. I wanted to show you this because this is especially, I try to show some of you younger people out there, I try to show you these kind of things because these kind of things will blow your mind that this type of thing has gone on in the United States of America, greatest country in the history of the world. Go watch this documentary. I just looked it up. It's on Amazon. You can rent it on Amazon like $3.99 or something. It's called Enron, The Smartest Guys in the Room. And let me tell you what, this is one of the greatest frauds that was ever perpetuated on this country. And just about every single financial institution from Goldman to Merrill Lynch, they were all in on it. They were part of the. I'm not saying they were in on it in that they were the frauds. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they were telling people to buy it. They were the financiers. Many of them were the financiers of this Enron debacle, and many of them were saying to buy right up until the very end. But if you watch this video, and I want to make the point here with crypto, which is what we are into right now. And I've said this before. I believe that everything you read that these guys say bad about crypto is partially out of a resentment, but more out of they missed the boat aspect of crypto, and they're trying to get themselves in the boat because they know it's not too late. And so these things they're doing, I believe, are completely intended to help themselves to give them a little more time to position themselves, or to position clients, or to position institutions that they're helping. Who knows? But anyway, I want all of you, if you have not seen this movie, this is one of the best documentaries I've ever seen. It's the best documentary I've ever seen in finance. But you will not believe these guys were literally trading thin air and and putting a paint job on it like it was something. Whereas in crypto, we're buying and selling something that could be a world changer. And these guys are trying to stomp on it like it's nothing. Anybody who really studied Enron, especially the guys that were giving them money and financing them, could have spotted this fraud a mile away. And the fact that they didn't doesn't give me a whole lot of faith in worrying what Jamie Dimon has to say or what Goldman Sachs has to say. Their opinions don't mean much to me, because I lived through this, and I lived through the financial crisis, which they were in on that too. As far as I say in on, I don't mean they were in on a fraud. I mean, they were part of the problem. They helped finance the whole thing, and then they just acted like they were this third party after the fact. And both times they were some of the biggest an implosion of finance. And these guys are supposed to be the smartest guys in the world, and they didn't see it. And how did they not see it? Well, look at this next one. This one right here is a little more bothersome. Does anybody remember Bernie Madoff? Well, guess who his one of his largest bankers was? It's J.P. Morgan. It says, this is an article from Business Insider. It says J.P. Morgan pulled $275 million of its own money from the Madoff feeder funds months before his arrest. It says U.S. Attorney, this is from 2014, U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara, I don't even know how to say that, but anyway, just held a press conference about the $1.7 billion fine that J.P. Morgan must pay for its negligence in allowing Bernie Madoff to launder his ill-gotten gains through the bank for decades. For years, J.P. Morgan repeatedly ignored warning signs and allowed suspicious round-trip transactions through Madoff's account. Okay, this is the same guy, this is the same bank who is trying to keep you from making Bitcoin transactions on your credit cards. And why? Because he's not yet making the big bucks off of it. Wait till this guy's making big bucks. He'll be all about Bitcoin transactions the second that he's in. The second this guy has got his finger on the pulse of the money being made, he's all in. Go ahead and write it down. Okay. So I wanted to illustrate those points because it's literally insulting to me, having grown up in the era that I have. It is insulting to me. I watched the internet collapse, and these guys were all in on it. They were all part of the guys making the money. They pumped it all up. They were funding the Super Bowl commercials you watched. It all imploded, and they all acted like, oh, well, it's not our fault. Same thing. And then you had the financial crisis. You had the Enrons. You had all sorts. You've had all sorts of these things. And every time, when it's all said and done, two or three things happens. One, none of these guys go to jail. Two, they don't know anything about it. It's like all of a sudden they're not experts anymore. But they're experts. They're experts when they're talking about crypto. Oh, this guy can spot a fraud when it's crypto and he's not involved and he hasn't made any money off of it yet. Just wait. To be continued. Keep watching this guy and watch how this unfolds, because it's going to unfold exactly the way I'm telling you it's going to unfold. He's going to be he's going to be neck deep in crypto within the next few years. And all of a sudden, people will be calling him a genius because he invested in it and made a lot of money. And of course, it'll probably be the J.P. Morgan coin, but who knows? Anyway, all right, moving along. I got some great follow at C3under/Nick. I tell you this all the time. I've got like 3 of his tweets that I found that were awesome that helped to illustrate some of what I'm talking about today. This one's the first one. For NASDAQ, NICE, and the like, watching the quarterly earnings reports and revenues of exchanges like Binance was equal to Google watching the keynote of the first iPhone. And this is so true. This captures what I'm talking about. These guys, the second that they started smelling the money, they started gearing up to get into this space. And they've been gearing up behind the scenes. I mentioned to you the other day that Mike Jansen had actually sent me a message, and it was from one of the article. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was from, but it was the video that CNBC had where they were talking about the announcement of the New York Stock Exchange was going to open a cryptocurrency exchange. And in that video, the guy that's talking, he says, yeah, the New York Stock Exchange has been doing this in stealth mode behind the scenes for a while. And Mike Jansen had sent that to me, and it was funny because they've been doing this in stealth mode. This guy announced it like as it was like a badge of honor, like there was pride in the fact that they've been doing this in stealth mode. Well, everything's been being done in stealth mode by these guys. It's all stealth mode, and I'm telling you right now, this tweet by C3 Nick, it's been all of these guys have been in stealth mode from the day that they started seeing the money that was being made. And the money was being made not because any of these geniuses spotted it, but because those of us sitting behind our computers at home, everything in our gut tells us that this is right and it's a good thing, and that cryptocurrency is where you need to be. And it was hatched out of the inequity of governments and the financiers. These same guys, Bitcoin was born out of what they've done to countries and put us in debt and printed our money. It was all created because of these guys, and now these guys have the gall to come out and try to poo-poo it so that the prices can go down and get themselves in. How dare they? All right, moving on. And I'm sorry if I sound a little passionate, but it's because I am. I know these guys like the back of my hand. I've watched them my whole life, and I know how they think and I know how they operate. And this what we're going through right now, the cryptocurrency, as I've told you many times, it's the opportunity of 5 lifetimes for the average person, for you and me. It's the opportunity of 5 lifetimes, and it makes me angry and sick to watch these guys try to manipulate it like they have their whole life. They've spent their whole life becoming rich off of the backs of people that don't have a lot in many cases, and now they're trying to continue to manipulate it. And the fact of the matter is that we beat them to the punch. This is the one time that the average Joe beat them to the punch. We were smarter than they were, and we had no inside information. We had no connections. We saw it for what it was because everything in our gut told us it was what it was. Okay, there's my part of my rant. Okay, so this has been covered over the last few days. This is huge. This is what I've been telling you for months and months. I've been telling you this was going to happen. This is where it's all coming. This was announced, I believe it was this past Friday or so. The New York Stock Exchange is partnering with Microsoft and Starbucks, and they're going to start an exchange, a crypto exchange. And it's basically saying how the New York Stock Exchange feels like Bitcoin should be in your retirement funds, credit cards, retail stores. Well, here's what's going to happen, and this is what I want to say about this. I know for XRP holders and other coin holders, a lot of times you get sick of seeing Bitcoin lead as if Bitcoin is this awesome digital asset or whatever. It's not about Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to lead this because they were the first ones through the door. But all of the investors that get on board with this, just like you and I, those of us that hold XRP, we went through a mental exercise. We bought Bitcoin, and then we sat there for a few days and we said, well, are there any others there's got to be some others. If there's Bitcoin, there's got to be some others that are better. And before you finish your study of all the coins that are out there, right quick, you will end up at XRP, and you'll see Ripple and realize the obvious conclusion that it's the greatest digital asset that's ever been created, and it has a 5-year head start on any of them, and it actually has a company around it that is going to help to make XRP succeed. So with products, working products that can help to incorporate XRP. All right. So this is happening, but I wanted to show you this now after I've shown you. You got Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, poo, awful. Oh, this stuff's not going anywhere. It's awful stuff. And meanwhile, you think Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan knew that the New York Stock Exchange was going to open a crypto exchange? I have to believe that maybe they knew some of that. Okay, moving on. Let's go to this next one. And then this was today. So 2 days ago, Goldman Sachs, oh, Bitcoin's awful, and it really isn't anything. Now, Goldman Sachs is considering this is 2 days later, Goldman Sachs is considering a custody offering for crypto funds. Custody offering, and what they're trying to do here is I want to read this. The firm is considering a plan to offer custody for crypto funds, according to people with knowledge of the matter. That means the bank would hold the newfangled securities on behalf of the funds, reducing risks for clients seeking to guard against the threat of losing their investments to rogue attacks. Okay, what this is this is the other part I wanted to read you. In May, Nomura Holdings Inc. joined other firms to create a custody consortium called Kamenu, and at least 3 giant Wall Street custodians, Bank of New York Mellon, JP Morgan, and Northern Trust, are working on crypto custody services or exploring it. People briefed. So now you got Goldman Sachs, you got JP Morgan, who have just both told us how awful cryptos are, that are creating, why would they create a custody solution to custody a digital asset that they don't even believe in? There's a good question. Why doesn't the media stick a microphone in these jerks' faces and ask them that question? You're over here creating Jamie Dimon, you're creating a custody solution for a digital asset that you say is a scam. Please explain. Okay, on to the next. I think that speaks for itself. Okay, this is from not too long ago. It's not Bitcoin trading, but JP Morgan is heading deeper into crypto. So, JP Morgan created a new position dubbed Head of Crypto Asset Strategy. This is so something that he's just called a scam today, but he's got a Head of Crypto Asset Strategy. So is this to head strategy, scam strategy? Is that what this means? So just a complete joke. It baffles me how these people can be taken seriously on any level. Okay, moving on. And I've got a couple more C3 Nick tweets here. If I can get the computer to move. Here, this is I'll get to C3 Nick next. But this was another JP Morgan that's pretty hilarious. And this is from just a few months ago too. JP Morgan internal report. So this isn't what they say to the news reporters. This is some internal report that somebody must have dug up where they're actually telling the truth. JP Morgan internal report. Ripple, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Cardano, Dash, Litecoin are here to stay. And it says right here, JP Morgan has predicted that cryptos such as these that I just named are here to stay. The observation has been mentioned in an internal report of the American multinational investment bank and financial services company headquartered in New York City. So this is buried in some report where they actually tell the truth. And meanwhile, it says here, the internal report fully contradicts the publicly held opinions of the company related to cryptocurrency. Earlier in 2016, the company's CEO, Jamie Dimon, called Bitcoin a fraud before being sued for his statement. So he's saying this, and then they're saying this in their internal report. So that tells you plenty about the source. All right, and let's go to this one. This is C3 Nick. This is about Goldman Sachs. One thing to remember about Goldman, on August 6, 2015, Goldman Sachs, which has issued very bearish forecasts on long-term gold prices, took delivery of 3.2-ton purchase of physical gold. Why do people give any credit to what they say? Exactly. My point exactly. And so I wanted to take today just to illustrate the absurdity of the things that these people do and say, but I think that you kind of get the point. But I've got one more from C3 Nick that I wanted to show you just to kind of cap this off. Big players looking at crypto and blockchain. The New York Stock Exchange, these are all confirmed. New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, SBI, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan. This is one out of Germany, second biggest stock exchange out of Germany. CBOE, BlackRock. And then he says, sure, it will go to zero. That's why they invest. And so he's poking fun at them for the exact same thing I've been talking about here, which is they say one thing and they do another. And so I hope that I drove the point home. And go watch Enron, the smartest guys in the room, just like I did with The Big Short. I'm going to rewatch Enron just because I did this video, because I've seen the documentary maybe 5 or 6 times, but I want to watch it again. These are great things to watch in these kind of times when these guys, when you have earth moving changes in the financial industry. In the Enron case, it was the collapse of internet and all of that, but it's really fascinating to see these things because you'll see so many parallels, and the parallels. It's fascinating the way that markets and that people think and talk when things are going down versus when they're going up, because the euphoria is going to come back into the crypto market. Right now, you can't even imagine that, but it's going to happen. And when it does, the thought patterns and the articles and the whole feel completely changes. But you can see that entire cycle in the Enron in that documentary. So go check it out. One final thing I wanted to show you. I talk to you about the Ledger Nano S all the time. I do not have a Ledger Blue. That's what this is you're looking at. But I've never told you that they have one. So I wanted to mention this. You can, in the description of all of my videos, it'll take you to Ledger's website. And you can also purchase one of these if this is the way you want to go. The Ledger Blue is more like an iPad. It's got a screen that you can actually, if you look here, it's got a screen where you can actually touch screen and you can store your digital assets on here. They're more expensive. It's $269.99, but I have thought about getting one of these at some point, but I do not have. Right now I've got the Ledger Nano S, but you can go in the description of my video, click, it'll take you straight to their site and get one. Safest way to hold your digital assets. Thank you guys for listening. I'm the digital asset investor. I am not an investment advisor. Please subscribe to my channel, and thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate it. I'll be back soon.